Hi, I'm Tracey Hanbury. Welcome to episode 6 of UK Property News. In this issue, we are catching up with both Suzanne Smith. Suzanne is the founder of the Independent Landlord, and also Peter Littlewood, who is the CEO of iHowz. Both Suzanne and Peter will be talking to Ian and giving you the very latest updates of where we are with the Renters' Rights Bill and how to help you to prepare for the forthcoming changes. So over to you, Ian.
Tracey, thank you very much indeed. We're delighted on this episode to welcome back Suzanne Smith from the Independent Landlord. Brief synopsis of your story. You were a lawyer, thought, I'm fed up with this, I'm going to become a landlord.
25 years.
25 years, a legal brain, and then you became a landlord.
Yeah, 6 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
And going well.
And I'm still smiling.
Yeah, you're still smiling, despite the fact we're in a really interesting time. You were on with us a few episodes back, and a lot can happen within a few episodes, particularly when it comes to the Renters' Rights Bill. What is your take, Suzanne, on where we're at so far? Because things do keep sort of changing.
Yeah, and it's been quite slow progress. So at the moment, it's still going through the House of Lords committee stage. And so they've been going through each clause and discussing lots and lots of amendments. But none of the amendments have been actually put to the vote. So we've had, because last time we spoke about all these different amendments, none of them have been put to the vote. They've all been withdrawn, but that's quite normal for the committee stage. A lot of them are what's called probing amendments. They're trying to, push the government to see if there's going to be any movement. And then the next stage after this is the report stage, where I'm sure there will be actual votes and people will try and get changes actually onto the bill. So
things can change still.
Yeah.
And are there? It's interesting when you obviously the Labour government have a big majority, so they can do quite a lot with that. Are there voices who are bringing in other angles and other concerns on this bill? Are there enough of those voices, do you sense?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, because you've got not just the Conservatives, but the Liberal Democrats, and what's interesting in the House of Lords is you have a lot of crossbenchers, so they're not actually part of a political organisation, and they bring a different voice as well. But ultimately, the House of Lords doesn't actually have the power to stop a manifesto bill getting onto the statute book. So the changes will be a bit around the edges, or maybe convincing the government that they need to change some things. So far, they're not actually looking as though they're going to change anything. They've said, well, Baroness Taylor has said that the abolition of Section 21 will go ahead. They're not going to delay it because of the problems with the courts. They're going to keep fixed-term tenancies, and they're not going to make any more exceptions for students apart from the ground 4A for students. So for those key things, they're not moving. Dare I say, it's like Margaret Thatcher, the lady's not for turning.
Yeah.
I don't think Angela Rayner's for turning.
And it's tricky because when it's a manifesto pledge, that's game-changing, isn't it? Because that changes the nature of what the government do with something. If it was just something that was introduced halfway through a parliament, it can be a bit more flexible. But a manifesto pledge, which won't please everybody, is not quite cast in stone because there is still wiggle room, right? I mean, the government could change something if there was enough pressure. But in this particular debate, you wonder whether there will be.
I don't think that they're going to be changing any of these big things.
Yeah.
I think there's a bit of wishful thinking on it. There have been a few small changes, but they're just on the detail and so far. But I mean, what I'm spending a lot of time thinking about is when's it actually going to come into effect? And Baroness Taylor has said that they're talking to stakeholders and there's going to be enough time to get ready, but not actually saying, well, what is enough time? And that's not 2 months. It has to be 6 months or a year. A year would be sensible, but they've not said anything yet because there will be a lot of work to do to get us ready to go into the new system. But yeah, we've still got a way to go.
I mean, this has gone on, and this goes over a bit of old ground, Suzanne, but this predates this government. Michael Gove was the sort of evangelist in
Lord
this area.
Gove.
Lord Gove, as he is now, a magazine editor as well. I mean, the guy's a very busy man. But he pretty much, when that argument, which comes around a lot, that this is a Labour government who don't like landlords, and it's not in their DNA to kind of, and the stereotypical image of the wicked landlord, and they're fulfilling all of these kind of criteria of stereotypes. But actually, it predates this government. A lot of this stuff was going to happen under the Conservatives.
Yeah, that's right. I personally try and keep out of all the campaigning, just keep it factual. But roughly speaking, about 80% of the Renters' Rights Bill was in the Renters' Reform Bill.
Yeah.
And then Labour have made it their own, like they do on the X Factor.
Yeah, so it had a name change. You have to do that.
Yeah, of course, because of renters' rights. And the thing is that renters isn't even a legal concept. They're tenants, but the Conservatives and Labour call it renters. It is different. There are new provisions in there, but the bedrock of it is what was in the Conservatives one. And you wouldn't necessarily guess that listening to Baroness Taylor and the Conservatives in the House of Lords.
Oh, you wouldn't, would you?
They've had a Damascene conversion.
It seems that way. And there's, not unreasonably, a lot of landlords will get in touch with us on this programme. And when I'm doing radio shows and the like, are often scratching their head, not unreasonably saying, well, what about, landlords' rights bill? Because it does feel as if the whole thing was developed with almost a sort of preordained belief that this stereotype that I alluded to, the landlords are the wicked pirates of bricks and mortar. There is that sense that many in the industry have that is ultimately what this is all about. It's having a pop. Of course, there are rogue landlords, and everybody wants to stop those guys, but they're a minority.
Yeah, there are. But I guess I'm just very pragmatic about it. It is what it is, and it is going to come into effect. And so we just need to figure out how to get our businesses organised for it, what we're going to have to do to adapt. I'm not like Chicken Dickens saying the sky's falling in over it.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be fine. The people who will find it the hardest are the student HMO or the student landlords and student HMO landlords, and HMO landlords we'll find it a bit trickier without Section 21. But the rest of us with single family houses, that's the original single family houses before it became a buzzword for build to rent.
Yes.
With long-term tenants, a lot of it's just more admin, and it's going to be a bit trickier to put up the rent and a few other things. But I think on a day-to-day basis, it's not going to be a huge difference once we get there, once we've gone through the transition.
Yeah. I mean, the sky wasn't falling in, but Chicken Dickens did get eaten by a fox.
That's true.
Yes. I don't want to enter Lorraine's hair colour here, but I mean, there's a connection there. So should people be careful?
I just...
Because last time, sorry to interject, but last time you were, lots of people are very pragmatic about this. Some people are quite distressed about it and are genuinely worried. But I think you were one of the first voices we spoke to that was positive about this. Perhaps working on the basis, well, there's no point in being otherwise because you've got to work with this, so get on with it. But you do sense pragmatically that this can be, if not embraced, but worked with, because it's going to be the law of the land.
Well, absolutely. And it doesn't change the economics for me as a landlord. Single let landlord of 4 properties, the Renters' Rights Bill, I'm going to have a few extra costs on joining the Ombudsman and the landlord database and things. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not really changing anything. And as we said last time, the tax changes to mortgage tax relief, that's been worse for landlords. And we've got EPCs coming and making tax digital as well. Yeah. But we're running businesses and we just need to go with it, go with the flow. When things happen, you've got to adapt. And that's what all businesses do, and it's not any different for landlords. Yeah,
true. But I guess it's not an unreasonable argument that this country has a housing crisis, and it's widely seen that the private letting industry, landlords, have helped address that over the years. In fact, without private landlords letting out properties, there'd be a bigger housing crisis. There's a sense that there's no real thanks for that, and it's almost a penalty for it.
Yeah, but do any businesses expect thanks?
Yeah, that's a fair point.
And a part of the problem is the selling off of all the social housing, all the council houses, and not enough building as well. So it's I don't expect anyone to thank me apart from my tenants who thank me if I'm going to I was there this morning, putting in, arranging to put in a raised flower bed for one of my tenants. And I spoke to a builder this morning, and they're going to do it, and she thanked me. So that's the sort of thing I'm focusing on is happy long-term tenants. Yeah, making the garden nice.
I mean, that's a good point, isn't it?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
but that's a brilliant example of kind of exploding the mythology.
Yeah.
That, that everyone's a kind of Rigsby character with a leaky roof and, no windows in the place, which is a nonsense. It's a business. You're running a business. You want it to be successful. You want good tenants. Good tenants want good landlords. I mean, and that mostly is the case.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think for a lot of things, we've got to control what we can control. Yeah. And there's just so much in the media about it. And I just say, to people, don't doom scroll on at all. Just get reliable content. Go to reliable places for content on the Renters' Rights Bill, and just focus on what your own properties, your own tenants, and doing the best job for them. It'll be fine, because people still need homes, and that's not going to go away. And we'll just have to adapt. Yeah,
well, I was going to say, what should landlords and letting agencies be doing? You've kind of addressed it there, because everything is about having the right information, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's a lack of that information that causes the problems.
Yes.
And you hear gossip and you hear tittle tattle, and sometimes, do you know you've got to do this? Did you realise you've got to put a windmill on your roof, or something bizarre like that? So getting clarity on what those rules are, I guess, is key.
Yeah, and the National Landlord Investment Show, they have like a members hub, a new members hub, and there's going to be a lot of content in there that's going to be completely free, like the shows, and that's a good place to go. But I think people need to, if they've got tenants that are in fixed term tenancies, then probably they're not, there's no point in renewing them when they run out. If they have tenants who pay in intervals of more than a month, they can have a look at that as well, and to reduce it down to a month. Talk to the tenants and inspect the properties, have a look around to make sure, is there any damp and mold that isn't being addressed, and focusing on standards, focusing on happy tenants, because happy tenants, by and large, don't cause problems. Yeah. And so we are really, and I know it's something that Paul Champlina talks a lot about, we are a service business, we provide homes, and I think that's what we have to do. It's a new mindset, is to realise that we're in the service business and focus on happy tenants, and that might mean putting in a flower bed.
Yeah. The flower bed clause, maybe that's one of the amendments that's waiting to happen from the House of Lords. Suzanne, great to see you. Thank you for coming on. We'll speak in a few months and see the latest stage of where this bill is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The National Landlord Investment Show is the UK's #1 property and investment exhibition. By hosting events all over the country, we allow you to network, learn and invest.
And our next guest on this episode, he's no stranger to this parish, Peter Littlewood, CEO of iHowz, back with us on the programme. It was only a few episodes back, Peter.
It wasn't long ago.
We talked about the Renters' Rights Bill. I mean, what has changed in that time? Because it's in the House of Lords now, right? So
it is.
There's all sorts going on. Has there been any movement?
Yes, there has. So what's happened is gone to the House of Lords. It's gone into what they call the committee stage. Yeah. But the committee is slightly different in that the whole House of Lords, anybody can join in. They've got over 300 amendments and they're going through them one at a time. If you want to watch paint dry, then I suggest you go onto parliamentary TV.
And have a look at the whole thing. Yeah. Yes. Even they have to cut it short, don't they? And that's all they do. So.
It's a bit like that, but it's interesting seeing the way that they do it. So all sorts of things went through there, and they do try and bundle stuff together. Yeah. And in the first day, so they just had the third day of 6, it ends end of May, sometime. But the first day, they talked a lot about student landlords. And student landlords, if the rights bill stays as it is, they're going to have real problems because they've not got fixed terms. Yeah. they've got this special ground 4A to evict. But if you talk to a student landlord, I'm yet to meet a student landlord that's ever had to evict. They don't evict.
It just doesn't happen.
It just doesn't happen because they go. They might have a day or two, but the problem is they go early, and they've not allowed for that. So if we've got a situation, you say you've got an HMO, 4 people in it, and one gives notice for all. So that doesn't give any continuity for the student tenants. Just when they want.
I mean, this is what fascinates me, Peter, about this kind of legislation. Someone somewhere came up with that and said, this is a good... Did they speak to anybody?
Right, do you want to know the reasoning?
Go on.
You're going to love this one. Because students are like normal people. No, they're not. They're first of all, they're fresh.
That's a huge libel on students, frankly, and I think they will be offended by the mere
But
idea
it's a different
of
model.
normality.
Yes, they're fresh from home. They need their hand-holding. It's a different year-by-year model. It's a model that's worked for several years now.
Yeah.
They're not.
And you're only renting because you have to, really.
Correct.
You're only in that situation because of your education. You're not doing it as the first step on the property ladder or anything.
No. We get some, and I've met a few now, who they go to university, I don't want to rent off that landlord, and they buy. And they become the landlord.
That's interesting.
And I've met a few like that.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, one, not name dropping, but Lord McKinley, who's in the House of Lords, started exactly like that.
Is that right?
Yeah, started exactly like that. He went to university, thought, why am I paying all this money?
I'll do it myself.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, and successful.
Indeed. One of the questions whenever we talk about this area, which is obviously a constant on this programme, we get a lot of questions come in. But the big one, how will it affect me? That's what most landlords are saying. Even experienced landlords who followed legislation for years, because it's not the first time there's been changes. No. But this is seismic in comparison to anything else. And there's still some grey areas.
Yeah, lots of grey areas. I mean, the grey areas are particularly when it's all going to come in. Yeah. And exactly the minute detail. There's a lot to be hammered out, an awful lot. But the biggest impact on people is going to be not so much the loss of the Section 21, because if people manage their properties correctly and use the Section 8 correctly, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. It's a loss of fixed terms. Yeah. That's what's going to cause problems. It's the loss of that continuity. And not knowing what's going on, it's a bit like the stock market. When you don't know what's going on, prices go up.
Of course.
And when prices go up, who ends up paying it?
So what term will a landlord be able to rent out on?
They can't.
They can't have any term at all?
No, it's periodic. And the point is that the tenant can give 2 months' notice as soon as they sign the contract. So again, they might not have moved in.
But the landlord couldn't do that in reverse?
No, not at all.
It's that, you see, this comes, we were talking with Suzanne about this. Lots of landlords, again, another question, where is the landlord rights bill?
Yep.
There should be something like that.
Yep.
There is this sense, and I know we touched on it last time, Peter, that politically, this sort of comes from a place where landlord's bad, tenant's good. There is that feeling. Of course, this isn't just a Labour thing, because that would be a stereotypical way you might malign a left-wing party, because the Tories were going to do this. And about 80% of this bill is still exactly as Michael Gove would have had it.
But the difference was Michael Gove put his bill forward, and a lot of Tories went, OK, fine. When we started saying to them, you do realise this, you do unintended consequences, and they all started going, right, perhaps it's not quite what we thought it's going to be, which is why the thing dragged. The point a lot of us made was actually, whilst we don't like the Renters' Reform Bill, it's better to get that through rather than get the Renters' Rights Bill. So anyway, we are where we are, as they say.
One of the questions that we put to Suzanne, again, it's a popular one here. What do I need to do to prepare? Lots of landlords, even those experienced ones, are still, unsure.
Right.
What are the steps I need to take?
Be professional. Yeah. Absolutely critical. Absolutely know what you're doing. The days of the amateur landlord are gone, completely gone. Even if you've got one property, it's a very part-time job, it's still a full-time responsibility. Subtle difference. Have a look at your portfolio, have a look at your tenants, and unfortunately, if you've got those tenants who've been giving you problems, you might have to move them on, which is very sad, but that's life. For goodness sake, reference any prospective tenant. If they don't get 11 out of 10 for referencing, don't offer.
There is that kind of curious example that always comes up, and I've raised it before. So if you've got a property, let's just say you're an accidental landlord. There's a lot of accidental landlords.
Oh, yes.
Inherited a property.
Yep.
You go to a pub. It's a spare house.
Yep.
Fellow in the pub says, "I'll rent it off you."
Yep.
Yeah. Do you like it? Have a little look around. Yeah, perfectly fine. We've got a heater over there. We've got double glazed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. There's £900 for the month. Not allowed to do that. That would be illegal.
Now, you can do that. The subtle difference is that if you're the landlord and I'm the tenant, you've got to make me a written offer, not a contract, written offer. I don't have, I can accept it or not, but I need to know what I'm accepting. That's a subtle difference from a tenancy agreement, which is a contract.
Yeah.
A contract has to be agreed by both parties. The offer is, that's what I'm offering you. Take it or leave it.
Got it.
Okay, so you have to do that.
But you'd have to get that legally
in writing.
In writing.
Indeed, yes. And obviously you've got to do all the other things, protect the deposit, et cetera, et cetera.
But that isn't the place where most landlords would be, is it? The written offer department.
No. A few years ago, yes, but not now. No, not now. And I had a landlord this morning. Oh, I've been renting since goodness knows when, sort of thing. I need to sell the property.
Yeah.
They've done that wrong. They've done that wrong. They've done that wrong.
Wow.
Well, I thought it was easy. No.
Yeah.
You're looking after someone's home.
Yeah.
You need to do it properly. Sorry.
Yeah.
It's not just something you do, I'll just do it over dinner.
You have to remember it's someone's home, don't you?
Yes.
I mean, and that is important.
Yep.
Most landlords, the vast majority of landlords, don't want to be bad landlords.
Yep.
But of course, with a new bill like this and all sorts of rules and regs, I guess the danger is ignorance, because that won't count. And some of the fines can be pretty steep for this.
Up to 30,000.
Yeah.
And rent repayment orders now can go back 2 years after the rights bill comes in. Would you like to pay back 2 years worth of rent?
So if you do something wrong, your tenant could then say, I wish to reclaim all the rent I've paid.
For the last 2 years. Currently it's 1 year, which is bad enough.
Yeah.
It will become 2 years. It's a serious bill and will become a serious act.
Yep.
It's not Armageddon. You know, basically we've survived other things before. We will survive this, but for goodness sake, be professional, know what you're doing, get trained, get properly trained, belong to a landlord association. I would say that, wouldn't I? But to keep up to date with things.
But also ask people, if you're not sure, ask experts, email people like yourself. Just say, look, just a quick question on this point or that point, because being across it is clearly going to be key to this, isn't it? Being across the whole thing.
Oh, yes.
The other big question, of course, and Suzanne had her own thoughts on this. When is this going to happen? Because we previously, I think, talked about maybe October. That's not likely, is it?
Well,
because putting it all into action, coming up with, this is what we're going to do is one thing. Being able to enact it is another.
Right, okay, as you say, quite rightfully say. So the bill will have to become an act. That's simple. But then it's enacting it, bringing it all in, and there's some kind of timetable. When will it be enacted? When will it get royal assent? I was told by a civil servant it'll be in the spring, but our definition of spring is a bit fluid. So that might go to October. so I suspect it's in the laws, as I said. I think the last date it's in the laws is something like May the 22nd. They then have to produce a report, and I know that they're dragging their heels on that intentionally. It then goes back to the Commons to go, no, don't agree with this. I think they break up for their holidays on July the 22nd.
Over half a year off.
No way it's going to get through before July the 22nd. Might be October. But as you quite rightly say, enacted.
But I mean, ticking all the boxes in a parliamentary sense is one thing. To the point where, bang, there it is in law. I mean, that could be another 6 months, a year.
Oh, more. There's parts of the 2016 Act still not been enacted.
Well,
so it's got to be enacted.
That was nearly 10 years ago. We've got.
I know.
So there might be a lot of landlords thinking, well, I mean, don't rest on your laurels on this. Don't go, I've got breathing space, I don't have to worry, because you do have to be across it. I mean, but it's not going to happen tomorrow.
No. The good thing, hopefully, when it becomes enacted, is we'll get a timetable.
Yeah.
Because we've not got one.
That's going to be crucial, isn't it?
Oh,
because you do, people are running businesses here, and although, we mentioned the accidental landlord, there's a lot of people, this is literally what they do for a living and nothing else. And they take it very seriously. And having huge amounts of hurdles and grey areas is disruptive. Peter, good to see you.
And to you.
Thank you very much indeed.
Okay.
Peter Littlewood with us on the programme. And Tracey, back to you.
If you want to stay up to date with the latest UK property news, make sure that you like and subscribe to our channel.